Hi, everyone. It is time for one of my very favorite things to do each week, where I get to sit down with our featured Go Girl Leadership Project Leader of the Week and have just a really great conversation. And this week it is Lindsay Chan, who, if you don't already know, she is the wonderful photographer behind all of my lifestyle photos on my website that are so amazing, and she makes me look good. So she's incredibly talented. I'm so happy to have her here today. Hi, Lindsay.
Hello. I'm
Um,
excited to be chatting.
Yay, good. Well, we're just going to start off by having you tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. I struggle with this question so much because I don't want to ever define myself by my job, but that's the first thing I always start talking about when someone says, "Tell me about yourself." So instead of saying that, I'm going to share that I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I have two littles. So we're in the trenches right now with the baby, toddlerhood, all that good stuff. And then I'm also a photographer and a business owner.
That is a lot of who you are as a person for sure, which leads right into my next question because you just mentioned you're a mom and you are an entrepreneur. So you clearly, and your kids, like you said, you're in the trenches. You are when they need you all the time. You are on call 24/7. So you have a lot that you're juggling on any given day. What advice do you have for moms that are out there that are either just starting to be on their entrepreneurial journey or they're thinking about it? Like, what things have you learned from this process?
I think the number one thing that I've learned along the way is just that it's okay to prioritize things that make you happy as a mom. Um, I have a 4.5-year-old and an almost 2-year-old. And last winter, when our little guy was just about to turn 1, I just was struggling like crazy with balancing, you know, wanting to be with them and be home with them and enjoy my time with them, but then also feeling guilty for doing things without them that make me happy, whether that's work or time with friends or just like sitting alone with a book because I just want to be alone. All
Right.
of those things. So, my best advice for moms who are just starting out in their journey is um, it's okay to want to be away from your kids. It took me a long time to be okay with trusting other people with my kids, whether that's, family, my wonderful husband who's supportive and balances his own career and time with our kids, because really we're both working full time. And my husband has never made me feel like his job is more important than mine. It sounds so crazy, but when we started to look into like life insurance things after our kids were born, we realized that my income plus the cost of full-time childcare, completely equals my husband's income. And that if something were to happen to either of us, that really the support that we would need is equal.
Mm,
And that really was a game changer for me emotionally and mentally to kind of like value myself.
right.
Um, so yes, I think, trusting other people, my mom and dad help with our kids a lot. My husband spends a lot of time with them while I'm working. And then finally this year, I, started spending more and kind of accounting for preschool. Our little 2-year-old goes to like a little kids' day out at a church, which is wonderful. And between all of those, we don't have any real childcare expenses, if that makes sense. I mean, preschool and kids day out is an expense and babysitters are an expense, but we're not putting them in a full-time, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day
Right.
daycare.
Right.
So it's a blessing for us to be able to both have time with our kids, whether it's together as a family or separately, and then while the other person's working.
That's so, gosh, there's a few things you said in there that I'm really totally into. Like the first one is about the prioritizing what makes you happy as a mom or prioritizing your mom. And I think that works for, whether or not you start a business or even whether or not
Yeah.
you,
Yeah, even if you're not a business owner,
oh,
you are okay to enjoy being away from your
yes.
kids.
I don't know where we kind of got off on that. And I think that moms need to hear that it's okay. Like you said, even if you're just reading a book by yourself, for a little while that and we need that we need that time to do those things that bring us energy and bring us joy that
Absolutely.
may not necessarily have to do with our children. The other thing that I love that you mentioned is the supportiveness of your spouse.
Yeah.
Because I find, and I say this a lot to people when I talk about being an entrepreneur, that I really couldn't do what I do if I didn't have the support of my spouse.
Right.
And I'm not saying that you have to be married in order to be an entrepreneur. I'm just saying if you are married, if you do have a significant other, they need to be on the same page with you.
Yes, absolutely. I think we've kind of found that um, this is not just my dream to be a business owner, but it's our dream. And we realized that together over the summer and spring and May, my husband and I launched, in addition to my portrait business that I've been full time for about 4 or 5 years, is another separate business, but kind of in the same world of drone photography. So my husband started getting really into um, flying drones.
Hmm.
And my dad and some other people within my network are in real estate, and so we started just kind of doing some things for them. And my husband is, decided to get licensed with the FAA and all of that. And so I think for him, things switched too when he started to get excited about that, and we were doing it together. So then he realized the passion that I have around my portrait work, he was having, with something that made him excited, and then we got to do it together. And so it's our dream to be business owners and be flexible with our family and provide, beyond the norm for them and for us.
Right. That's a rarity that you can find something where both of you get passionate about it.
It's not perfect. Sometimes we make each other crazy, but
That makes me happy, actually. I like to
it's
hear that.
mostly fun to do it together.
I can't even imagine if I did that. Um, well, so, and you answered this in a question before, but we did not put this question was not on our blog. But what does success mean to you?
Oh, that's hard. I think success for me ultimately means making my clients happy.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's hard to sit around and not compare yourself to other people. I think I used to think that success meant being as busy as I could be and doing as much as I could. And I quickly realized how easily you can get burnt out doing that.
Hmm.
So, I needed to really, at that point in my business, stop comparing myself to other people. And also the facade that we put out, you might seem like someone else is really busy, and really you can put anything out you want there, on social media. And it's not always, I'm just going to throw this out there. I don't know if this is too crass, but I've heard it called like emotional pornography before. So
It's a
where
great
it's,
phrase for
yeah,
it.
it's not realistic, right? So
Right.
if you think of what that word means in other in other terms, like it's not real life, right? So you look at what someone else is doing, and this is for businesses or for just personal life, looking at someone else's Instagram or Facebook or things like that and comparing yourself. um to me, it's emotional pornography because it's not realistic, and you're comparing yourself to something else that probably isn't really real.
Right.
So success to me now means having happy clients, allowing my clients to have a great experience, and from beginning to end, creating an experience and a product that they're happy with and that I'm happy with, and just continuing to grow my business and grow connections and do what I love to do.
Ah, that's beautiful. And you have said, I think you actually say this in the blog we have on our website, and I know that you've said this to me in person before.
Mhm.
And one of your favorite quotes is comparison is the thief of joy. And
Yes.
that is so true. And social media is for all the beauty that there is in social media. There is that it's hard not to compare ourselves, whether it's professionally or personally, to
Right.
perfection that everyone puts out there. And it's good to just be reminded that that isn't reality.
Absolutely.
And we have to define our own, what success means to us, and how do we get there. And I think that's hard. It's easier said than done, I think.
Yeah,
But it's true.
absolutely.
And you're right. Anyone can put anything out there. So that company that looks like they're super busy may not really be that busy. Or they may be busy, but nobody's paying them. That's the other
Yeah.
thing I discovered.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Now, this question is super hard because I don't think you probably have a typical day. But could you just take us through, because you do balance that world of entrepreneurship and mother of young children so well, could you just take us through, like, what does a typical day look like for you?
Oh gosh. Well, like you said, it depends on the day. I could probably more easily kind of share a typical week, but the way that we kind of balance it, and also the other thing that I didn't mention is that my husband travels for work frequently.
Oh,
So
yay. That's
that's
great.
that's another factor in the crazy juggling game that we play. But I would say on any given day, depending on the morning, we're either, we're up, um, just going to be totally real. Like it's crazy. Like my kids don't have like a perfect little breakfast. Like sometimes they eat like a hot dog in the car in a plastic bowl while we're driving. And I say that because I don't want to contribute to the emotional misleading that we talked about.
Right. We're not going to
Um,
go back there. That's right.
yeah, like I'm not going to talk about how amazing like and perfect my family is. No, it's not. Like usually our daughter comes into our bed in the morning and she's like, I'm hungry, and she's like asking for videos. And then I feel guilty about like giving her my phone while I'm trying to get ready. So I'm like, get a stack of books, but sometimes she watches a video, and usually there's like Pringle chips in our bed. And then we get our son up and we get dressed and we go downstairs. If there's enough time, we eat breakfast at home, like a scrambled egg and some fruit. Sometimes that's in the car. This morning it was like turkey bacon and half a banana for each kid. And then we get in the car and then they go to school. Eli for 2.5 hours, Emmy for like 4.5 hours. And and then I work during that time as much as I can get done in the morning. And during the busier seasons, so like I would say like May, June, July, August, September, October, November, I'm shooting. The other times of the year, I might have studio sessions. I do like business headshots in my studio and then like milestones, but I'm not shooting outside, obviously, when it starts to get cold outside. Um, and so I try to limit myself to 2 weekday sessions per week, and then 2 weekend sessions every other month. So we'll kind of prioritize family time that way. So, and also I'm contending with the weather. So if it rains, that kind of becomes our weekend off, and then I'm working the next weekend. Sometimes I have like 2 weekends off in a row because of the weather, but then I'm like cramming everything into one weekend because I have a lot of clients that are working full time and can't do weekdays. So, things kind of vary that way, but I've kind of found that if I set boundaries for myself, instead of saying yes to everything and kind of essentially booking up at a certain point, that I have a good balance between work and family life, and time to myself and that sort of thing. And I'm not, getting really backed up on editing or other things that I need to do. So yeah, that's a typical day. I always work when our son is napping. Our daughter that's 4.5, she doesn't nap anymore. We mix some play dates in there. We have Bible study on Thursday mornings. We basically have, and give it just things around. Tuesdays
Right.
are like our day where we hang out and, do something fun or hang out at home.
And that's, I think that setting the boundaries is really important. And I think sometimes, especially when you have young kids and you're trying to make sure that they're doing everything they need to do and you're doing everything you need to do as a company, it's hard to start saying no to things and
Yeah.
really setting. But going back to what you were talking about earlier about like your definition of success and being able to focus on that, like, this is why we're doing what we're doing, this is why I'm doing it, that helps you set those boundaries.
Yeah.
And say, we're only going to do 2 of these a weekend, or we're only going to. And I really kind of want to talk too about the fact that so many times you read so many articles about balancing, how do you balance your personal and professional life? And I think when we use the word balance, all of us have this visual in our head of every day needs to be balanced perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Like every day I should spend the exact same amount of time with my family as I do with my work, what I do with my spouse. Like we should be dividing. And the reality is that doesn't always happen.
Right.
It's like you said, there are some weekends where you're cramming it all in, but
Right.
you had 2 weekends in a row where it was family time.
Yeah. And certain times of year too, like pretty sure if I were to crunch some numbers and run some reports, like in my financial systems, like the amount of income that comes in between September and November for me is like a huge chunk of my, yearly income. So, I might work a little bit more this time of year right now, but then that means I take a big old break in January and February when things are slower and
Right.
kind of recharge that way. So yeah, there's no way to perfectly, I mean, I'm sure I would probably function better if I had like a set routine. And we have a little bit of a routine, but we also don't. My kids spend time with grandma on Thursdays. That's their grandma day. So I know, for the most part, every Thursday I have the whole day to myself after we go to Bible study in the morning. So yeah, it's just, you just make it work. It's all pieced together and
Right.
one day at a time.
You do make it work, and it's good to always have a support system, whether it's family or friends or whatever it is, to help you make it work. That is always the key. Now this, and you said something, and this is not on the questions I sent you.
Okay.
But you just said this, and I really like this. So you are an entrepreneur, and you were talking just now about like looking at your financial statements or something. Did you know everything there was to know about starting a business when you started your business? Like, did you have a business
Oh gosh,
class?
that's
Right.
a great question. Absolutely not. So, fun fact, my bachelor's degree is in youth ministry and nonprofit business management.
Oh,
It has absolutely nothing to do with what I now do, um, which I'm pretty sure is a large percentage of the population. Like, I think there is a statistic about the number of people that are working in their field or their degree.
right.
Very small, but no, that's come with time and growth and support from a great network of other small business owners, photographers, and that sort of thing. So um, I look back, to when I decided that I was for sure going to like launch a real legal legitimate business was when I wanted to stay home from work after our daughter was born. So it's like almost 5 years now. Um, at the time, I was working at a therapeutic day school for kids and adults with autism spectrum disorders. Before that, I worked in fundraising. Before that, I worked in churches. So really my goal my first year was to just supplement my income minus the cost of childcare
Mhm.
to allow me to stay home with our daughter. I was super motivated to stay home with her. And I started looking into things like I need a contract for my clients. I need, bookkeeping. I didn't get a client management system until 3 years ago. So 2 years into it. So things have evolved. Like as my business has grown, I've just kind of started to find solutions for things
Mhm.
um, as I've gone along,
Right.
which is crazy. But I do think that there's a lot of support out there for small business owners. I know that you use the same client management system that I do, 17 Hats. That's wonderful.
And I learned that from you. That was like talking
Yeah.
about resources. I mean, that was one of the when
Yeah.
you
And that for me was when, like, before that, I, I had like a PDF on my computer with my contract that I um, bought a template through a resource, if there's any photographers listening, called the Law Tog. Um, and then I had my lawyer kind of tweak it, but I just had it like in a PDF and I used to like email it to people with canned responses in Google. So I would like save like a set email in Google to be like, when I send this person this contract, like I want to mostly say this, and I would kind of change the email. And then I would ask them to like sign it and scan it back to me or bring it to their photo session. And then and I'm like, okay, like there's got to be a better way to do this. Like
right.
there's got to be like some way to like sign it online. So those things just kind of happened as my business grew and evolved.
Well, and I think they continue to do that too. Like I think as your business grows, and and when you're scaling your business, you're
Yeah.
still learning new things. Like you're
Yeah.
still, okay, well now what do I do? And
Yeah.
I
ab-
want, if there's any women out there that are listening or thinking about starting their business, but they're like, oh, I have no business experience, I don't know what I'm doing. You'll figure it out along the way.
Yeah. I would say like, don't be afraid to ask for help, because I think I was so embarrassed to be like, I don't know these things,
Right.
but I think it's more important to be a legal, sustainable business than
Yeah.
to pretend like you have all the answers.
Right.
So
And
ask for help.
ask for help, and there's
Yeah.
nothing to be, embarrassed about. Everyone knows that you shouldn't know this information. I have gotten to the point where the lawyer that I work with, I've actually, when I get something that I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. So am I
Mm-hmm.
supposed to do something with it, or am I supposed to just write a check? And I will actually just like do a Zoom call with her and hold it up to the camera
Yeah.
and be like, look at this. Do I need to do, because I don't know. I don't know. And it's really long and I don't understand. And so surround yourself with people who know more than you.
Yeah. And
Always.
I think too, like, people assume, and this is probably like different for different industries, but I can say, like, in the creative community, there's a group of people in my experience that value community over competition and will help with these sorts of things,
Mhm.
or will encourage like business mentorship and things like that. And then people that will say, I had to figure it out for myself, so you figure it out for yourself too. And I would much rather be a part of that first group, and my business has grown because I have aligned myself with people that feel the same way, and we refer clients to each other. We can ask each other for help. We can vent with each other when we're having a bad day. And you, as in my opinion, as a business owner, will have more respect from your community and your profession as a legal, sustainable business compared to someone who's just kind of trying to cut corners and figure it out.
Right. Right. I totally agree. And the process may be slower than what you thought it was, and that's okay.
Yes. Yep,
It's not
absolutely.
the key here. Okay, so for our last question, I love asking this at the end of everything. Name a woman, past or present, who inspires you.
Oh my gosh.
I
Well, you sent me these questions ahead of time, and I kind of thought about it. And that was the first question and the last question were the ones that I had the hardest time with. And then I was like, I'm just going to go with the first thing that came to mind, because like I could say something really cool, like some wonderful, like historical figure who did something really awesome. But, and there's a lot of those, but this, and I might like get emotional when I say this. Um, my inspiration is actually two people, but it's kind of the same because I hope to be like them, are my grandma, my maternal grandmother, and my mommy.
oh,
Um,
love it.
just because they both, my grandma passed when she was 93. So my grandma was, and my mother is, they're both the most selfless people that someone will ever meet. And they have, really just helped me learn how to be an amazing mom and a friend and wife. My grandma was a single mom, and she had 7 kids. My mom was one of
Oh
7
my
kids.
goodness.
So, and she worked full time as a teacher, and she was a dietitian in the service before that. And so she was raising 7 kids by herself in Naperville way back when. And she just was always there for everyone, doing everything for everyone. And therefore, my own mom is the same way now. She was over at my house last night, babysitting my kids for free while my husband and I went on a date. And usually she like does all my laundry and cleans the house and does dishes. Last night she hung pictures for 2 hours for me. I was planning on helping her with it, and we kind of got sidetracked because the kids were still awake when we were trying to do it earlier in the day. She said, why don't you just go and we'll do it when you get back? And I come back and they're already up.
And they were
But,
done. Oh,
yeah.
that's so
So
lovely.
she's just yeah, she is just amazing, and she is everything for everyone. You know what I mean? Like, she is like that grounded person that's there for everyone no matter what they need, whether they're family or not. And I hope to continue to be able to grow to be like her for my own family and my own friends.
Oh, I think that's fantastic. And you are well on your way to being that, because that's how I think about
You're so
you.
sweet. Thank
Because
you.
you're very kind and thoughtful and all of those things that you just were saying about your mom and your grandmother. And isn't that just a great testament to the power of who we are as people, what that does to our children? The
Yes.
role
Yeah.
model parents really are, and grandparents and other influential people in our lives, they really do impact the lives of kids in such great ways. And
Yeah.
kids are paying attention, like your mom was paying attention to all those things that your grandmother has done, and look how you're paying attention too. So
Yeah.
it's beautiful. And I would like your mom to come over and do stuff for me. Is she available? I mean, I don't have little kids anymore, so there's not any babysitting, but just, someone to help me hang my pictures and fold laundry would be fantastic. I would hire her.
She's a rock star.
And I feel like she would be very inspirational while she was doing it. Like I would be inspired by her while she's helping me get my life organized.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
Lindsay, thank you so much for
So
spending
much for
time
chatting.
with us this morning. And we are, I love kind of the accidental entrepreneur that just figures it out along the way. And kudos to you because you have those 2 children and a husband that travels and you're making it work every day.
One day at a time.
One day at a time. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh.